February 2021, Valentine's Day had occurred. I had given my wife, but when I went through pilot training and I got eliminated there carefully with the government, so I had the review done by the Department of Defense. They have an organization in the Pentagon to do that.
Hey, welcome to this episode of the Leadership Loading Podcast. And my name is Jason McClaren.
Yes, and I'm Bill Cimino.
Today we got Bill. He's a retired Air Force colonel and an author. So he's joining us today. We're going to talk a little bit about his career and a little bit about his book and what led him to write the book. So, Bill, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Definitely, yeah. Let's start with your career. Obviously, most of our audience is military veterans, first responders. So, tell us what led you to join the military, and we'll start from there.
Sure. I was in college, St. John's University in Jamaica, New York, and this was in 63 through 67. And, I had forgotten to register for the draft, or not register for the draft, but forgot to tell them that I was in college. So I actually got a draft notice to join the Army, and there was a little bit of excitement there. But I cleared that up pretty quickly and, was able to finish college. And I got married right after graduating and then went into the Air Force. So I selected the Air Force for a couple of reasons. One is my wife's brother, 4 years older, was already in the Air Force. And I was able to talk with him, learn a little bit about the Air Force and the different career fields. And so I got very interested in joining the Air Force. And I went to see a recruiter and I said, if I'm going to be in the Air Force, I want to fly and I want to be a pilot. So that was my intention. And, everything seemed to work out. I graduated, we got married, and 2 weeks after graduation, and I'm still married to the same woman, 57 years now. So it's been great marriage. We have 3 kids. They're all married with 2 kids each, so 6 grandkids. But, going back to my career, I immediately went into officer training school in San Antonio, Texas, 3-month course there. And that went well. And then I was assigned to a pilot training base in Texas, in Del Rio, Laughlin Air Force Base. And we headed out there and, I had every intention of doing well. I did well academically, but, it turned out that the flying part didn't work out so well. And I described that in detail in my book, but that was a big disappointment for me. And it was, a range of emotions, anger, disappointment, embarrassment, you name it. It was just all competing for my attention, and it was kind of tough. But you have to look forward and not backward. And so getting to what inspired me to write the book was, and capturing my career was just to capture a little bit of legacy for the family. So leaving Laughlin, I went on to a different career field. It was in munitions, learning all about conventional weapons and nuclear weapons and all of that. And I had an assignment in Okinawa after that training. And, I went through that. I was second lieutenant, first lieutenant. I got promoted to captain there. And that was a great tour. But I was in a fighter wing, in the wing safety office. And I was surrounded by pilots. Everybody that flew F-105s, EB-66s. I had a good friend that took me up in a T-33, and I didn't have any problems flying with them. And so I got re-inspired about flying. But, when I went through pilot training and I got eliminated there, I was told I could not fly again. And, I went through a board and they said, you can't continue this training. You're falling behind in the flying part. I understood all that. But I didn't give up. So while I was there in Okinawa, I flew a few times with a friend, and I had no problems in the air. It was just like, this is what I should be doing. So I reapplied to pilot training, knowing pretty certain that I wouldn't get accepted back into pilot training, but I had a good chance to go to navigator training, and that's what happened. So I ended up going to navigator training. I was in a class of about 80 students. About 60 graduated. Navigator training wasn't for everyone, but I did very well there. I describe all that in the book. So after that, I had my book captures chapter by chapter my assignments until I retired. So that's kind of a quick summary of what the book is and what I went through. But I had a great career. I was in many different assignments. Some were flying, some were non-flying. I was with the Canadians. I was in the Pentagon. I worked with the intelligence community. So anyway, that was kind of a quick summary. And then I have a special section in the book where I give special tributes to people I knew that have passed on. So anyway, that's kind of a summary, Jason. And I don't know if you have any questions at this point, but I'll pause there.
Yeah, definitely. I think you hit a few things there. One is, you followed your passion right with the military. You wanted to do flying. I was in the Air Force also, and I think that's one question I always get is like, "Oh, did you fly?" Is the first thing people ask when I say I was in the Air Force. Obviously, most people want to fly in the Air Force because it's a cool thing to do. I had I didn't do college before I went in, so I went in and enlisted. Sounds like you were already in college before that, so for those looking to join the military, obviously, if you're going to college first, you can do the officer route. It's great. I'm always a proponent for that if you want to do college first. But I think your story is also one of pivoting, right? You didn't make it into pilot training, so you went to the navigator route. Still got the ride on the airplanes and do that sort of thing as a support role. And I did the same thing. I wanted to be a security forces. They change the name every 3 years. It seems like I wanted to be a cop or security forces or security police. So I had to pivot also. I was an Air Force firefighter. And so I ended up doing that when I went in. So it's all about pivoting, right? And I think we can use that in our personal lives also. Then the second thing you talked about was legacy. I think that's another important thing with military personnel. We like to brag, but we don't, right? we brag to our friends and our comrades, but we're usually humble. And so I think that's another point. I love being on this podcast with guests like yourself and being able to kind of share our stories together and then letting you as the guest share your story. We actually had a couple episodes ago on writing a biopedia, which is a shorter version of a book. Go back. I can't remember the episode number off my head, but we'll put the link on here somewhere or in the show notes. But she was talking about how you can write a biopedia if you don't have the time to write a full book. So all good points there, and I think that's something we can lean on. So walk me through the process of writing the book. Like what for those that want to or are looking at it. Did you just start writing or did you outline it and how did you get it published and that sort of thing?
Sure. It was February 2021. Valentine's Day had occurred. I had given my wife, the roses and the chocolates and got through the Valentine's Day. And then the next day, I was sitting where I'm sitting right now in my study and where I spend a lot of time. And I was just thinking back on my career, as I do every now and then, and I'm sure you do as well. And I said, I'd be great to try and write a book. I'd completed a few family videos that I made, and I've done about 4 of those, and that was a lot of fun. I love doing that. But I said, I want to try something different. So I set out to write the book, and I picked the title of the book, Manifestations of Apprehension, before I wrote a single word. And that title is described in the book. It's very vivid what it means. It really applies to what happened to me at pilot training, and that's described very early in the book, like in chapter 4. So, but to describe the process, it was a great journey to do that. It took me about a year, a little over a year to write the book. So I started that day, the day after Valentine's Day. I completed it in early March of 22. And I pretty much, Jason, worked on it every day. I could probably count 10 days where I didn't do anything on the book. All the other days, including the weekends, I'd be up writing. And I had good material. I saved a lot of my records. I had letters that I wrote, from writing when I was on a remote tour. I was in training for some extended time, and I wrote to my wife, Fran, and we wrote back and forth. I kept all those letters, and I still have them. And in there's a lot of detail, when I was away, and I described what was going on. So a lot of people who have read the book say, how did you remember all that? And I said, well, I couldn't remember it because my memory isn't as sharp as it used to be, but I used things that I had outlined and organized and was able to put, the sequence of events happening into the book. A couple of things that I should have done better is when you write a book like that and you use, say, photos that either you use your own photos, but maybe use others. You've got to get permission to do that. So you should do that as early as possible. I kind of wrote it, had my manuscript all ready, and then I went and tried to get permission from, organizations, or if I used a newspaper column, I had to get permission for that, sometimes pay for a license. But you can do that early rather than wait till you finish the book. So that would help time, eliminate some of the time. The other things I did, I wanted to vet the book carefully with the government. So I had the review done by the Department of Defense. They have an organization in the Pentagon to do that. Since I worked with the intelligence community, I had the CIA review it, and then I had the Air Force review it. So all these caveats are in my book, what they wrote back and said they approved it. They don't endorse anything you say, but they say you have permission to write, you publish the book. So that's an important step if you're going to write anything where you were working with the government. So that took various times. For example, with the Air Force, they kind of approved things as we went through certain things. I would submit something and they'd get right back to me. And this was the Air Force Engagement Office in New York City. They have an office there that does that. The CIA took 30 days. It was pretty quick. And the only thing they wanted me to take out was a photo I had. It was a photo. I could tell you what it was, but the reason they took it out is you can recognize faces in there of a group of people. And that, some people, of course, are undercover in the agency, so you can't reveal who they are. So I had to take that out. The Department of Defense took 7 months, and it was just a long process. And they ended up taking out one word that I had repeated in one chapter, maybe 10 or 12 times. And so I had to substitute a word for that. And that was the only thing, but it took them a long time. So anyway, getting through all of that, I worked with the publishing company was Archway. They are a part of Simon & Schuster, a big publishing house. And for the most part, they were pretty good to work with. And I had them edited it. I think my writing was pretty good, but they sent me back a document that has all these track changes in Word, and they corrected a lot of grammar and punctuation, that kind of thing. They didn't change any content. That was all mine. But the process was great also because I connected with people I haven't talked with in some of them 50 years. I was able to connect with them and tell them what I was doing, get their permission to use photos. And so all of that was very rewarding. But it was a long process. Like I said, from starting to finish took 2 years and 7 months before it was published. So it was published last September, last year. So it was a long process, but it was a enjoyable and rewarding process. I'm glad I did it. I did it primarily for, family. I gave a lot of books to my kids and of course my wife got the first copy, and then my kids and friends of mine and some other family members and I've done a few podcasts here and there. So and I'm inspired to write again, maybe a novel or something. I like reading. I like writing. And it's just an enjoyable thing to do in retirement. So, I hope some of these help you a little bit. If you have any other questions about this, either now or later, don't hesitate to get in touch with me. I'll be happy to help you out.
Definitely. I think that is very helpful for anyone. You don't think about a lot of that stuff, especially if you're military and you're looking at writing something. You may not think that things are classified or even not really classified, but just not for public consumption.
Right, right.
I know me being a firefighter, we have, specialized fire trucks and we were on the flight line all the time. And you got access to things that, not everybody needs access to. Kind of going back to my talk earlier, it's episode 103 with Latane Scott is our episode with the biopedias for anyone interested in writing a shorter story, not necessarily a novel, but moving forward from there. Well, Bill, if you had to tell a young soldier or airman or even just a young person that's starting a leadership role, what would you tell them if you had just 1 minute to give them some piece of advice?
I think one of the best things you can tell someone is don't give up on your dreams. If you have a goal in mind, don't give up, seek support. No, nobody's an island. I got through things with a lot of support from people I work with, and I try to do the best I could. Do the best you can. You may not succeed all the time, but don't let failure discourage you. Because it happens to just about anybody. And I emphasize that a lot in my book, is that when you fall down, you've got to get up and just keep trying. Seek support, do the best you can. If it doesn't work out for you, find another road to your goals. And objectivity is important. Find the things that you can do and do them the best you can. Not everybody can do what they want. And that disappoints a lot of people. It discourages a lot of people. But you've got to be able to pick yourself up and find another way and another goal and reach out for that.
Definitely. And Bill, what was the name of the book again? Just if anybody didn't write it down.
Yeah, I'll hold it up here. It's Manifestations of Apprehension, a memoir. And I have a photo of that's my photo in the front there of a helmet and flight bag and checklist that I used. I flew in the RF-4C, a reconnaissance, tactical reconnaissance aircraft in Southeast Asia and in the States, and as a Wizzo, as a backseater. And I had a great career. I loved it. I did well in it. So that's the name of the book. It's on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, a bunch of different places. It's in an ebook version. That what I just showed you is the soft cover copy of it. It's 454 pages, but the chapters run through less than that. In the back are the special tributes. There's a very, very lengthy bibliography. There's acronyms. There's other charts and things in there that are relative to the story. So, and it's easy to read. I picked a Garamond font, which is very easy on the eyes. So if people tell me, hey, this was easy reading, and I'm glad to hear that. So that's the book.
Good deal. Yeah, and we'll put the links in the show notes below so you can click right on it and get you a copy.
Well, I wanted to tell you as well, Jason, thank you for your service. And with your background, I have a friend I'm going to meet for lunch next week. He's an Army retired colonel, and I told him. He said to me, he said, he was thinking of writing a memoir. And I tell anybody who wants to do that, you've got a story to tell. I'm sure you've got a lot of good experiences and things that would be of interest to others. So I would encourage you to do that if you want. I think it'd be something that's, it's a little bit of work, but it's very rewarding. Even if you don't sell books, it's rewarding because you've accomplished something. So I wish you luck with that.
Definitely, I'm just waiting to finish my PhD and then I'll knock it out. So, Bill, thanks for coming on the show. Like I said, we'll put everything in the show notes below and people can reach out to you directly.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Jason. I appreciate the opportunity.